Bindi Birgit. Hi, I'm Birgit from the Wishing Thorn. Today I'm back with Flosstube number 7. I have a few things to show you, some old antiques, some ideas on needles. I know everybody's got their own ideas and their own favorite, but hey, I'm just going to show you what I use. And I have one work in progress, a new little sampler I got in the mail. There's a couple of others, three or four on the way, so that can be months before they get here. It just depends on the mail. And we're gonna go through an unframing and a half. So one of the samplers Cassie Bourne is stitching the model from, so I took it out of the frame, but it's still on its old stretcher bar. So I want to show you, how it's mounted on there. And I'm gonna probably put it in exactly the same way, but the old stuff, the old fabric / canvas they mounted it on, has to come off, needs to all be cleaned. Then I need to put something around the inside of the frame so that does not bleed onto the stitch piece. But they actually did a pretty good job stretching it, but it's just so old, and that actually is the original frame. I don't know if you remember which Flosstube, I think it was 2, where I showed her to you, and she had like these little strips of newspaper around it, and I took pictures of all of them, as I went around the frame so that I would have those, because obviously it can't, there's no way to save that newspaper. And one of them had a date of 1851 on it, and the sampler was actually stitched from 1851. No, the sampler stitched 1851, and the newspaper had 1851 on it. And one of the things, it also has the square nails, so that also indicates really old, but they were really nice. They only put two nails on each side, so it was a little difficult digging those out, but it was done. But there is a lot of muck that needs to come out of the frame, so we have to go. Sorry, it's not a ghost, it's a cat. Buzz, could you stop that? That looks weird on camera with that door opening and closing. Stop it. Oh, good Lord, it's going to be a cat kind of day. Anyways, so I have a few old pictures to show you that I stitched from many, many moons ago, and a work in progress, a couple of other things, some cool items, and some antiques. So let's get started. I'm going to flip the camera because I think everything today is going to work better from top down. So one moment. Okay, let's continue. So first off, my favorite needles. I stitch just about everything with a Peacemaker 26. When I have beading to do, I actually switch to their size 28 needle. They are actually really good for if you're doing regular size beads, like the regular Mill Hill beads. Sorry, my hands are so dry, can't see. There we go. Let me just grab a bead to show you how nicely that works. I can thread a needle, but I can't get a bead out. Oh, yeah. There we go. Little bead. Put these over here. So I can't see. So they go like right on nicely. And I prefer using that compared to those skinny bendy daggers that's called a beading needle. So, I mean, if I were doing like the petite Mill Hill beads, you would probably have to use the other one. But for regular beading, I just use the 28 Peacemakers. The other thing I like about the Peacemaker needles, they are quite a bit shorter than the regular needles. I think they're the same length as Susan Bates. And then antique and still favorite. So my favorite hoop, of course, is my mother's hoop. What I love about this, it has this little indent in it. So it's really nice for when you're holding it. I love the giant screw. Don't know who made it because it's, well, there probably was some markings on here at one time, but it's worn off. But these are really, it's a very nice, and it's a nice solid wood hoop. And then of course my collection, I have many of them. In fact, I think I'm gonna dispose of some my princess and duchess hoops. And these I still use them when I stitch. They are a nice hoop to have. Like these have the felt on the inside. It's a little bit roughed up there. I haven't used this one, but they're all, you know, a really nice hoop to use. So I don't see why not. I've never stitched with an oval hoop. I mean, I have it, but I never needed an oval hoop. So most of my stitching is done on the scroll frame, but when I travel and I need, you know, a small project or two, I would be traveling with one of these. So at home, no, scroll frame, as you are going to see shortly. And some of the old stuff that I have that I wanted to show you. So one of them is a little old scissors. Don't know how old it is, but it's old. It's precious. And the funny thing is, it actually is, don't remember the name brand. It is one that still cuts better than some of my newer ones. I need to find the scissor sharpener. All my stitching embroidery scissors, I have many, many, many of them, and they all need, this is fake old, but the silver is tarnished. It's got one of my first little scissor fobs on it that I made a long time ago. Don't know whose pattern that was, but it was fun. Need to sew this back down. That came off. So, and it could use a new holder. So that is those old things. And let me open. This is my little casket, my thimble casket. I don't collect thimbles. I just have 2 or 3. They just somehow end up with me. It's real pretty. Don't know who the maker or what the maker is, but it came like this. And I actually love it more for the little case it's in with this gorgeous little latch. I love that little latch. And you just close your thimble in. So delicate and so cute. And it matches perfectly with the next thing I'm going to show you that's unfortunately not usable, but I want to use the pattern to make a new thing out of a stitched piece. So I'm going to be, you know, designing a sampler. Look at how beautiful this is. So this would be a needle roll, a huswif, huswif. There's so many words for this, but this one is leather and silk. So this has separated. And these are like cotton fabric, sweetly embroidered. Look at this. Then this little section here is leather, so you would have put your scissors in here. Then you would have put whatever you wanted to store here. And then the bottom section is a case that has a, let me take this out because I want to show you that too. It has a little leather holder thingy with silk and the ribbons. So you could, I don't know what exactly they did. It does hold spools perfectly right here, or thread bundles the way they used to come. So this is, oh, let me see, does it say? This is like late 1800s thread. And this is how our girls probably would have bought some of their threads. It's not silk. This is either linen or cotton. I don't want to take it apart because this is like, I wonder if that camera can finally focus on this. This is how the original bundle came. So, you know, I don't want to take it apart because this is so precious. And it came wrapped in this little wrapper. So 6 strand, I'm thinking, but it's so precious, and goes in here. So that's where this is kept, and this is probably going to be until I do the pattern the last time this gets open, because this leather is just, I don't know how to preserve this. I don't know anything about this, but it's falling off and I don't want it to get worse. So this is going to be stored in a special box, and I'm going to make the pattern, and then I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Then on to some other. And when I say our girl stitched with everything, so what was in here was probably the medium range person. This right here would have been something probably the poor people would have stitched with. So this is linen thread, really old. There's the address where it was made, the dye lot, lin for linen, and this is a bundle of thread that the girls would have had. And then if you were a rich and fancy girl, you would have had this. The rich and fancies would have stitched, look, original Soie d'Alger cards. These are old. Old. I don't know what year, but so they had like multiples, and I don't know if the store would have cut off like a section. I don't know how that would have worked back in the day, but I'm assuming it was cut off because I also have these chopped ones. And I wonder, does this have a number? Would have been cool to compare it. No, number's not marked. Oh, number 4949. I should go look that up. And but this is a different, so coordinate, I'm assuming that would be like, it's a different twist of silk. And then here is another one. I love these. This is so pretty. 473. Look at that, guys. How cool is this? So yeah, these are rich people silks. And there's a green. This is very fine. It's almost like silk pearl cotton, but it isn't. Soie quality. I would have to sit down and translate. My French is no longer that good. It used to be very good when I lived in Germany and we were right next to the French border and you hopped over there all the time, but not anymore. If you don't use it, it sort of gets lost. So these are some of the really lovely old treasures. Slowly, my stuff is reducing as I'm trying to find the bundles to pack them up and put them away. Then I wanted to show you a couple of things that I do get on Etsy. And this lovely lady, Henrietta, she is actually in one of the business classes with me. We have like our own little Facebook group. And she makes like bags and not cross-stitch pouches. She has some, she makes handbags. And she sells mostly the good stuff to, at shows. So she has got awards for her things. And it's Henrietta, and her business is Talford Jones. And I love these, they're either pencil cases, but I end up, whenever I'm doing a project, I end up with everything in there. Crochet hooks, scissors, needles, more needles, beads. So, oh, do you remember this? The special brush to comb your whisper threads. Remember that? This is like, oh my goodness. 1996, I got this at the Stitchery House, which no longer exists. So this is from 1996, and you used to use it to brush your whisper threads to make them fluffy. I haven't used that in a while. I haven't stitched with whisper, not until I get back into that fairy idol. So yes, and these are so well made, and they're plastic on the inside, so she puts a cover on the fabric so that they can be wiped, which is really nice. Such attention to detail, really well sewn. You got the little hook here, you have a little hook here, and she makes these beautiful little tassels. You got another here, so I don't know, you could probably use them as a mini bag, and I got like 4 or 5 of them because they're so, yeah, this is a project in here. So I end up, because my stuff is on the stand, so I don't take it off the scroll frame. And this usually just holds what I need it to hold. So, moving along. So, work in progress. So, I'm still not quite caught up, everybody. So, this is my progress on my mystery sampler. So, I unpicked here, this row. This was the Montenegrin stitch because I had used a different over dye. So I switched to kelp because kelp I used on the model of Earthy Molly. And I was like, oh, I love this so much. Because the other over dye ended up being a little heavy on the pink. I'm going to leave it here because I don't want to unpick everything I did. But let me show you. That was this one. Trying to remember what it was called. Meadow, maybe? Let me pull it out. And I mean, the colors are still pretty, but it seemed like I didn't want to cut the pinks out, but it ended up being too pastel-y for me. So I chose to go with this. And so I still have to finish my row of acorns here. I know I got like mails from others that are like, much further than me. I'm a slowpoke. But hey, there's others who also emailed me that they're way behind. So I'm somewhere in the middle. So this is a really fun little project we have going here. I think we are on mailing number 3. So 10 days, the next one goes out. So I need to have this done because I do want to at least be staying up to snuff with everybody else. Let me move this over. So then, let me just move this over to the table, guys, because I want to show you something next that I don't show often or if ever. So, oh, I need these beads. Let's go. So the quilting, I mean, I quilt, but I would not consider myself a quilter. I know how to quilt, and I've done maybe 3 or 4, mostly wall quilts, little ones. Those I've done plenty, but I've done for each of my boys, I've done a large twin size quilt when they were little for their beds. And this one is, it's going to be difficult to show you the whole thing, obviously, because it's large. But this was for my oldest, and it's a little rough in shape. So the newer fabrics have, I mean, this was not treated special. I have to mend it. I'm getting ready to send this to him. This probably could use some patching. But this one was all done by hand, other than when I made this, but that was also then sewn on by hand. I am not good with a sewing machine, which is really odd because my mother was a master seamstress and she was excellent with the sewing machine. She sewed all her clothes and everything. But this one is precious because it is made with mostly or many of the old clothes from my parents. So this is the boys' grandpa's shirt, my grandmother's bedding, my dad's shirt, my dad's shirt, mom's apron, dad's shirt. So, you know, it's really lovely, and it's it's a simple pattern. It's alternating, you know, these guys. And in the middle, because he was a little nature boy, and he still is, he lives in Colorado, and he hikes and climbs, and he did the Appalachian Trail and anything outdoorsy, naturey. And this has like the little center medallion. I just made it up. There was no pattern, so it's got his name and the year it was made. And this was, for me, it was an accomplishment. To most, it's probably simple, but they use it, they love it when they're here. And I made sure I put in a little, it's called Yoni Stars, and it says, this quilt was started in July of 1992 in Germany. We were stationed in Germany during that time again. We went to Florida, came back to Germany, and then we went to New Mexico. It took only 6 weeks to piece the top by hand. And after crossing the Atlantic, it finally, what did I write? Was finished in Florida 2 years later. Oh, so we went to Florida again. 890 pieces, some of Opie's old shirts, and over 700 yards of threads were needed to put this quilt together for you, made with all my love. Mom. Ooh, sorry. I didn't know I was emotional about this. Maybe I don't want to give it away. So anyways, and I'll show you my other sons that need some mending too. It's different. He also has a little center medallion. So those are going to be wrapped up. They're now old enough to take care of their own things. So that's where they're going, because I don't want to move their stuff around anymore. So let's move on to something not so emotional. Whew. So you know her. This is Sweet Bernarda. She is in the store. She's the one with all the fun, vibrant colors from Spain. And it's amazing what all she put on this tiny little, stitched by Loizo, I don't speak Spanish, sorry guys, and Bernarda Bellin. And it says for, stitched for Donna Isabella Camacha in the year 38. So really cute. And right next to this is this unassuming little thing that nobody thinks much of when they see. If you look really, really, really close, you can see that those threads were at one time pale blue on the back right there. So this is, where's the restitch? Right here is the model, the restitch. So slightly bigger because I didn't want to go way tiny, but you could stitch it way tiny like this. But how precious did that turn out? So that's that. And then we have, oh, this is the sampler I got in the mail. I got it in a little antique shop in France, and it's, once again, a cut-off sampler. I don't know why people love to cut off their samplers, unless they didn't get very far and just wanted that fabric for something else. But I have to come up with a way to, because that B is like hanging there by one thread. So it's a lovely little alphabet, you know. This one looks real familiar. This looks almost like the one in, oh, what is her name? In the AW sampler. Let me grab that. That is, yes, look at that. It's the same alphabet. So they must have used the same pattern booklet. How cool is that? Yep. So, yeah, that's the AW sampler. That original is like giant. It's like 1.5 feet by 2 or something like that. But some really pretty alphabets on this one. Was happy to get it. The back is, it's a medium back. I've seen worse. So this is going to be obviously a little red marking sampler. And let's move on to the blue one. And this one came, let me go see if I can grab the frame. This needs stabilizing here, and that's why it had to come out of what it was in. It had a very unusual frame. This was the frame it was in, so it would have looked like this. Trying to get this into the picture as much as I can. And obviously really, really, really long because it's a very long. So I'm going to try and get this back into this when it's all fixed and put together. But in the meantime, it's also a really pretty alphabet sampler. And it is just slightly darker on the back. And oh, guess we're going to be doing some darning. So this is kind of cool. And it's 1889. Katharina, it's German, obviously. Well, I assume German. Katharina Birkenmeier. So it's elegant, simple, and I don't want to fold it right there where this is, so I have to be real careful. I have to roll it. This would probably be really boring to stitch, but I will chart it, but I'm going to give the option to just stitch it from, you know, from here to here, this section. Right here. And then give the option with the darning and those rows up top. So that's going to be a fun little project. Now, something a little more colorful. And this, let me go grab my board so I can hold it up close. I call this the Teapot sampler because it is quite unassuming when you first see it. You know, there is, you know, the regular alphabet. And then there's a little of this. Hold on, let me turn this to where it's not so far away. Sorry for the movement. That's not what you need. It's going to make you all seasick. I know it would make me seasick. This is obviously done with silk, and it is a very fine fabric, and I think the silk she used is a little bit too thick, so it made it almost look like beads. Like here, you can see this was stitched with too much, and the others were much finer. You can barely see the eyelet row right there. And then at the bottom, I'm gonna have to hold this like so because it's not gonna be visible otherwise. There's like these tiny, tiny motifs. There's Streatham. Don't know what that says. I have to go look that up. Something May 1878. I'll have to see. But look at the little tiny motifs over one. That color stayed real well. You can barely see, you know, what all is on here. You wouldn't guess this when you first glance at it. Look at all these little things. And that little tea set. How precious. I'm going to go flip it around so you can see some of the colors, how bright they are on the back. So this is the wild mess on the back. Like for instance, this vase, you can barely see it. It's just gray, bland gray, but look at it, it's a vibrant purple. Same for this. I think that's a clock. Vibrant purple. This stayed very much the same. So much better dye. Then this is purple and lime green, and it's nothing on the front. And this is, what is this? me see what. Oh, it's a little house. Look at that. It's like a little house in the woods. And it was stitched in like 632 in a green. This right here is something that was stitched with one thread that I can barely make out. That's going to take like a super magnifier to figure that one out. Looks like some snowflake kind of design. Miss Clara Helen Woodward, Stratham Hill, May some number, 10th maybe, I don't know, 1874. Born April something, 1864? So 1876, and so regardless, once this gets charted and I have it under the proper magnifier, I'll be able to see it better. But what fun is this? Unassuming and yet quite fun on the back. Look at these colors. I sometimes wonder when I see these wild colors in you know, like for instance, you know, in the silk selection of people, and then when I look at the back of this, I'm like, okay, that's why. And here comes a simple little sampler by Helen Robson, and I think she did just as much as she had to. It's not super fancy, but it is very well done. Very, very neat on the back. There is just a little bit of color difference, you know, from back to front. They did not fade too much, but for the most part, she was a very neat stitcher. There is no year on it. I'm thinking mid-1800s. There's some eyelid practice. I don't think there's any over one in this. These I've seen in other samplers that I have, but it's all very pretty. Her cute little cartouche. Some birds. I like her little bands. You know, she's got the bands with the crown, she's got the flowers, and then she's got the bird section and a larger bird section, and then her little cartouche with the swan duck thing. Not sure, but kind of precious, isn't it? So these are some. I still have a couple of other ones that we're gonna go over, but first want to get this out of the way. So many of you know that I've worked in a stitching store in Florida, so that's why. And they were also a frame shop. They no longer exist, but I just found this, you know, as I'm going through the closet to you know, pack stuff up for moving. And this was my goodbye present that they stitched. You know, at the time, it was thought that I would be opening a stitching store up here in Connecticut, but that didn't come to fruition at the time. So, but it has like all these lovely sentiments. I can't wait till I'm finally moved and we can hang this up, you know, in my little office space. Because I remember, oh, there's Jilly. She used to be our finisher. And Karen and Sherry and Sally, who owned the store. So many good people and good memories on here. Christine was awesome. She was, I think she was either an accountant or a lawyer. But her and her husband bought like this little boat and just went down the river and up the East Coast. And God only knows where they ended up. So, very, very cool. This was a fun little piece to have from them. So, no stitching of mine on there. It was a surprise, and it's a very lovely surprise, and fond memories of that place. And then, here come my two pieces that I actually have to take out of the frame. My little Amish stitching on Ada, and that's got a big old stain that I don't know where that's coming from. This was 1990. I loved stitching these. These were the Steve Plumchak, or I don't know how you say his name properly in English. But these would have been nice to have done again on linen. But I love them just as they are, and they always were a set. So here's the other half with the little, we loved stitching with the 500 greens and the little ducks. And there's the guy and the trees. This was just all around fun, these two. I'm so glad I still have them because different times, but these were, while they are you know, from the back from the 80s, 90s, I stitched them in 90. They are not too geesey country from in the colors what it was back then. I actually still like all of these colors, but man, what a backstitch mess that was. Look at this. I have to turn it this way. I'm sorry. Look at all the backstitching there. That's a lot of backstitching. I don't backstitch that much anymore. So that's this one. And let me get the other two giants. I'm just going to have to scroll them along. Working in the frame shop there obviously was good because I got nice discounts. So, and I did paint my own mats. I mean, that was just something that I did for me. Didn't do it for customers unless it was requested. But that is Shepherd's Bush. And this is Noah's Ark. You can still get this as far as I know. So, let me hold it up a little closer. Like there's the ark. Such fun. Oh, my little alligator flipped. I need to turn it around the other way. And armadillos. And the pudgy people. And of course, the top. This was such a fun stitch, but man, look at how 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mats. Yeah, I was crazy back then. And this is the other one that I really adore from them. This is also Shepherd's Bush, and this was Potting Shed. Or the Potting Shed. And let me show you. This is, I remember Jim, that was Sally's husband, cursing when I asked him to cut those mats like that. I said I want them like hanging open like a circus tent. He was not happy. I did not cut those mats. But look at that. There's so many cute things in here. And these were all, this is all stitched in silks. The little beehive row and the baskets. And the little person pudgy with the watering can. And the higgledy-piggledy path. There we go. That is these two guys. And now I think we're probably almost through what I will be able to show in the next few floss tubes. I mean, there's some old samplers still, but my stitched stuff is almost diminished. This was a little miniature sampler, and I do not know, did I write it on the back? No. Ooh, water damage. Oh well, guess I have to open this up. But I actually love the matting on this one. It's got like fabric, marble, then the stuff that looks like cardboard, and this. So, and there is nothing to this. This was like beaded grapes, and this was 1997. Little ABC with birds over one, and I see a hare. Man, we should have had cameras like this when we did framing back then. Well, I'm going to have to open it, see what's going on inside anyways, and I'll take that off. Put it back together. But this was fun too. Can't believe I put all those beads on there. That's a lot of beads. Wow. I like those vases, how they're stitched. That looks cool. Okay, now onto the old stuff. So I'm first going to show you the disgusting. I'm not going to flip it around because you're going to have to watch the video because there's just so much grime on it. So look at all the stuff in here. You see that schmutz? That's what this poor sampler has been sitting in. It is so gross, so disgusting. Look at this corner. And you know, a lot of the darkness and smudge stuff, disgusting stuff, comes from, you know, these houses were heated with coal-fired stoves. So that always put nasty around it. But when I was saying, so this was, hold on, I don't want this to fall. So this was, you know, the backside of, you remember her, you saw her, Elizabeth Hughes in, I think, video 2. But what I like is they were really good. They put her on here, stretched her, and it is covered, but this fabric now is so old and the rust leaked. So this has to be snipped. I'm going to snip or attempt to snip real quick before we go to the real unframing, just to see, because she can't stay on this. So I'm going to be using this frame. It's going to be all cleaned, and I may not open it all the way. I'm going to pause so that I just want to see. Ugh, there's like nasty gross dust already. I want to I'm going to pause this so we can, so I can cut and you guys don't have to watch me cut the whole thing. Okay, one moment. Okay, just finishing up the last few threads up here. And look at all the stuff already falling out. So even if it were, you know, perfect, and it did have glass, and yes, it was sitting on the glass, and we all know we don't want that, but just for you to see. So here, look at this. You don't want it to sit in this another 200 years. So this is why this needs to come out and need to be cleaned and freshly done. And this is just filthy. So and if you look, back is not too much different than the front. It's a little more vibrant, but it's, in the department of fading, it's pretty good. Not bad at all. I mean, that's almost too loud. The front has the perfect amount of color. So this is going to have to be dusted, vacuumed, brushed. Gonna go see if there's any spot cleans up here. That did have me a little worried, you know, where this was eaten away, but I don't see any immediate buggage. I'll have to give it a real good once over and see what's going on. So now let me get the other one. One moment. She's bigger too, but you'll see. Okay, and this is Pratts. She's in a giant frame. She's a gorgeous sampler. She is still behind glass, which is bad, and she needs to come out. I love the border, but since we're already running quite long, I hope that this is not going to take too long. One of the things I want to show you, so you see these hangers that they're using, besides this horrendous stuff right here. I need to cut that off. But most of the frames back in the day, and this shows that this is a truly old frame, is they have these holes right here. And let me see, you might be able to see this one better here. And you would have the screws up top on the top part of the frame, and it would be these guys, and you would hang it from the top. And I think that's so much prettier than putting the hanging hardware, you know, where they have the hanging rails and stuff. So you would have used that to hang your picture. So let's get this off. And this looks really new, this tape. Probably somebody peeked in there to see what's going on, or fairly recently redone something or another. Oh yeah, this comes out like, well, so far it looks like it's going to come out fairly easy. Let me go grab the trash so I can put this somewhere. I'm gonna pause for a second while I'm trying to get, you know, the paper off, and I'll be right back. Okay, so this was more like a backer board, which was nailed in through here. Ooh, look at that. Wavy. And I just pulled it off because I'm not going to reuse this. So the nails I'm going to pull out separately, but there is her wooden stretcher thing. Ay, ay, ay. Let's see. And I'm assuming she might be nailed into the frame right here, right there, right there. Let me show you. You see this? Right here, right here. So it's going to be interesting. This one probably comes out fairly easily. And it's old, so we're obviously saving all these, putting them with her. So I'm going to pause and try and get these nails out. You know the routine. This is not going to be easy because they are almost all buried. So I'll talk to you in a second. Okay, we have her out of the main frame. That needs cleaning up because that is a really gorgeous, gorgeous frame, and she is going to go back in there. So now this is what I feared. Oops. She is nailed around the side, and these are rather large. So, ugh. Let me show you the front, and you can definitely tell the difference from here, what it used to be, to here, where it's all, and this right here is all water damage. So let me see how hard it's going to be to get these nails out. There's, thank God, not one every inch, but I'll check. One moment, please. I just want to drop in and show you real quick something. So this was obviously a redo because I took out nails here and up here, but I see at some point there were many more in here. And when you go down here, you see like there's one like right beside it. Some of these nail heads are falling off. So let me see. I'll be right back. Okay, that was a little bit of a torture, and it is extremely filthy. So I got this off. This is like so brittle. And yes, you can see the pretty back. I'm not even going to save that. That is nasty. But you can see, you know, the difference in color here, how it's, let me pull this, like this triangle. On the front it looks beige. Here you can see all those vibrant colors. It is so pretty. And this is all stitched in wool except for the words. And let me show you down here. This is all dark. So the colors are quite, even the border, look at the difference. Hold on, let me get the board. Where's the board? Right here. So you can see, look at the difference in the border colors. Like these are pale green, these are deep green. This is on the front, like whitish. Let me see, this flower is dark green on the front. This had so much water damage. So I need to see. It's, you know, tough. There is a little bit of silk over here in the lamb. So this is all wool. And let me flip it around so you can see. I like that. That's kind of pretty. The lamb with the flag. And it doesn't look like there's any over one. Even when I look at her name, I can't see because I don't have my readers on. It looks like it's over 2. It's the only difference is it's threads. Here's the cute squirrel, nice and dark brown. And then there's 2 more squirrels up here. That's why we're going to be calling this the squirrel sampler. And she tried something a little different with the flower in the middle. Kind of pretty. It's got some blue threads hanging there. I'm assuming she used those to outline where she was going to stitch her flower. And the back is, you know, totally different. So this is Miss Ann Pratts. Lovely, lovely, lovely sampler. And the border is why I wanted it, and the squirrels. Because I haven't seen so many squirrels on one sampler. Okay, this was it. Longer than expected. Sorry, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care, all. Bye.